What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming over to the BUIDL stage. This kicks off our two-session segment on decentralized finance, which, in my humble opinion, is one of the coolest things to really sort of come to fruition, or at least get traction over the past year or so. We're kind of witnessing this Cambrian explosion of innovative things happening. I think Maker and DAI kind of kicked things off, but now you have new ways of lending with Compound. You have different ways of creating derivatives on the blockchain. There's a lot of regulatory insanity there, but despite that, projects keep moving forward and building. So I think it's under the radar for a lot of people, but not you guys, because you're about to learn more. So that said, I'm happy to introduce Tom, and he's going to tell you about decentralized margin trading.
All right, thank you. So I'm Tom Bean. I'm co-founder and CEO of bZx, and I don't know if any of you were at the Melonport conference or saw the live stream. That was a week ago. So if you did, this presentation will be somewhat of a rehash, but we are going to touch on some more things. So bZx, we're we like to call a radically permissionless margin lending protocol. We're a network of smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. We've been live on mainnet since a little bit past middle of last year, and we facilitate trustless and decentralized margin loans. And those of you who don't know, a margin loan is a loan that's backed up by assets you might have in your wallet. Like you put up collateral and you borrow some other asset, and you can short it, or you can pull it out to your wallet if you're doing an over collateralized loan. So I'll touch on some more of those things in a bit. So let's jump right in. So we facilitate peer-to-peer margin loans, fully trustless. There's no accounts to set up or KYC. You do it directly from your wallet. We also facilitate shorting, which you kind of need margin for, and we have very fast on-chain liquidations. And we also are a full solution for DEXs. So many of you are familiar with bZx. We're similar to bZx, but we're for leverage trades and shorting. So we have a toolkit for integrating with bZx relays, or you could create a standalone bZx, like bZx relay, where you have funding and borrowing order books. So, and like I said, we support very fast margin calls. So, protecting lender funds is very important. So some of the other solutions out there might have use a Dutch auction or some other method. Our liquidations happen very fast on chain. We have a network of bounty hunters, and we call them margin callers, that are monitoring positions. And if a position goes underwater, it gets liquidated in one atomic transaction. So they're very fast. And it's kind of like bZx. We support off-chain signaling, on-chain settlement, or we have fully on-chain order books. And we're also integrated with on-chain liquidity providers like Kyber, Bancor, Oasis Dex, and others. And the reason for that is for real-time price discovery on-chain, and for liquidation liquidity, and also borrowers can manage their positions. They can change their exposure to the market by using our on-chain providers or providing a bZx order. So two types of loans. Over collateralized, those who are familiar with Compound or some of the other solutions, you put up more collateral than you're borrowing. So you might put up 150% and borrow 100%. Like you put up 150% in value of an asset and borrow 100%. And then you can pull it out to your wallet, send it to an exchange, pay your bills, whatever you want to do with it. But the more interesting use case that we facilitate is under collateralized loans. So you could borrow like 4 or 5x ETH. Like you put up $25 worth and borrow $100 worth of ETH or something like that. And then that lets you trade with, that lets you take out leverage trades. So it amplifies your losses and your gains. And for under collateralized loans, we escrow the funds because we don't really have a way to, we don't have a way to enforce payment or repayment because it is trustless. So over collateralized, it doesn't matter. We have more than 100% value of the loan. So if they don't pay back, then we just keep their collateral and make the lender whole. If under collateralized, though, we have to escrow the funds. So if you put up less than the value of your loan and it goes into our smart contracts, and then we provide all the functions you need to manage your exposure, change your collateral, take profits if you're a lender, interest accrues, so you can pull out your interest, stuff like that. And we support we support all ERC20s technically. We're agnostic to that, but we're kind of restricted to our on-chain providers. Kyber supports many ERC20s, all the popular ones. So Kyber was the first liquidity provider we integrated. So anything that's on Kyber Swap, we also support for margin lending and trading. So yeah, radically permissionless basically means that it's an open protocol. So anyone can open loans without accounts or KYC. Anyone can initiate margin calls and liquidate positions. So how that works is, like I mentioned, people are monitoring positions and liquidating. That's also a decentralized network of people. So if someone sees a position is bankrupt and needs to be liquidated, they call into our contract to liquidate, and we have to verify that on chain. So we go and check the prices on Kyber or one of our other providers, and if it actually is underwater, we liquidate immediately and then refund. The lender gets back the full amount plus interest that they've of the principal. And also, a couple other ways permissionless is liquidity for margin calls. You can kind of supply your own liquidity. You can run a Kyber reserve, or you can supply a Kyber reserve to kind of front run margin call, like liquidity for margin calls if you're a liquidity provider. And also, it's very easy to build on us. We have as I'll touch on, we have an Oracle layer that you can extend the protocol in interesting new ways. If you wanted to create like a Dutch auction type liquidation system on us, you could. So we'll talk about some of our BUIDL ideas and suggestions for people that want to build on us, and we are offering some bounties at this hackathon, so we'll touch on that in a bit. So I kind of touched on, the players in the ecosystem are borrowers and lenders, and also builders, integrators, and others that want to use the protocol in different ways. So briefly on the life cycle of the loan, the order can be, the loan order is set up by a lender or a borrower. They go and they define all the parameters, like what they want to lend out, the length of the loan, the initial margin level, which is the level of collateral that's required to actually enter the loan. So it could be at like 25%. That means that you're basically a 4x loan. You put up $25, you get $100, something like that. And then the margin or the maintenance level is the level that it gets liquidated. So it might be like a 2x loan might be 50% initial, 25% for maintenance. And if the position is open and it falls to that level, like say you borrow ETH and you swap it for DAI, basically effectively taking a short position on ETH. So you're hoping that ETH is gonna drop in price, or DAI is gonna go up in price relative to ETH. So if it goes the other way though, and the margin falls to that maintenance level, that's when it should get liquidated very fast. So that minimizes losses for the borrower, and ensures the lender gets back the full amount that they loaned out. So once the order is created, similar to 0x, it gets hashed and signed by the makers with a private key, and then it can get distributed through any arbitrary means. Like it can go on a off-chain relay or DEX, or it can just be, it can be sent anyway over the internet. It's safe. And then once it's filled, is the opening phase is when it's filled. So a borrower finds a loan on a DEX that they like, and they like all the terms. So then they fill it. It gets sent to our smart contracts. We verify that nothing is, it's immutable once it's made. So if any of the parameters have gotten altered by anyone, it invalidates the order. So once the order is validated, the funds from the lender and the borrower, from the lender, it's obviously the principal, it's what they're lending. The borrower, it's collateral and interest over the full life of the loan, get escrowed in our smart contracts. If it's an over-collateralized loan, the it gets withdrawn to the borrower's wallet, the loan funds. And then once that happens, it's, moves into maintenance phase. And as I've kind of mentioned, the full function of position management is available to the borrower, and they can, they can swap in and out of assets very easily. They want to change their exposure or close out their exposure. Say you borrow ETH and you short it, but you want to close that out temporarily, you can swap back into ETH without closing the loan. And then, closure, the borrower can close the loan early, or lender, or, the position goes underwater, it gets liquidated. So we're going to talk about a new product, a couple new products we have coming out that we're real excited about. Is first is iTokens. So this is a protocol extension. It's basically a tokenized version of a loan. So a lender, so for all the supported tokens, we're going to have these iToken contracts. So there's ETH, iETH. So with what you would do with iETH, you would send your ETH into the iETH contract. That becomes a global lending pool. Anyone can borrow against that for normal loans or under collateralized loans for margin trading. You could take it like at a 4x loan against that as a borrower, and lenders are earning interest. So the value of that is always climbing up. You'll always get at least the value, the asset that you put in. So you deposit 10 ETH, you're going to get back more than 10 ETH when you actually pull it out, because it's always accruing interest. So this opens up like a wide variety of use cases in DeFi. So if any of you are familiar with MakerDAO CDPs, like they're going to have a multi-collateral DAI product coming out. So when they do, you could potentially have collateralize it with iETH. So rather than ETH, I mean it's the same as ETH, but it's going to be going. It's always going to be accruing interest, and the interest rates on CDPs are so low. So you could offset that with the interest you earn. So it could be basically a free CDP or a CDP that's you actually make a profit on. So and these will be fully compliant ERC-20 tokens, so they can be traded and freely traded. So and another interesting thing is the price is determined algorithmically based on supply and demand plus the accrued interest. So it can always be queried in real time against a contract. See exactly how much of an iToken you'll get back from your deposit. So we're pretty excited about this, and it should be out in the next couple months probably. So that So okay, so I kind of mentioned some of these things. It's it earns you passive interest forever. So if we're integrated with, say, a wallet that you could check take a checkbox, and your ETH that you're just holding in your wallet could be earning you interest. It would get behind the scenes get deposited into iETH, and you have you're profiting on the time value of your assets. And it's a unified liquidity pool. There's just one contract, like for ETH, just one global lending pool, and you don't have to loans that are taken out from them. Anyone can continuously borrow against them, and loans roll over. So there's no need to deploy new contracts. It's just one iETH, and we actually, on ENS, we're going to have iEThoken.eth, and you could just send your ETH into that and get iTokens back. And real simple to entry and exit. You can burn the tokens to get the funds back, or you can sell them on an exchange. And to get tokens, you just deposit your ETH or you buy them on an exchange. So the other thing we're going to release is P tokens, and some of you may be familiar with DYDX's margin tokens. So this is similar, but our tokens, again, don't have to be reminted each month. It's just loans last 28 days and roll over. So it's kind of an improvement on the UX where you don't always have like loans that or tokens that are expiring. You just have one like 4x short ETH token, and that's the only token that's the only contract you have to deal with. And again, the price is updated, queryable on the contract itself. And we'll have P tokens out for varying degrees of leverage and varying assets. So like a 4x short ETH token, a 3x ETH short ETH token, 4x long token, stuff like that. So we'll cover all the all the popular types of loans people want to take. So there's a lot of use cases for our protocol. Asset managers can monetize and hedge their positions. Some of those products that we're talking to are Melonport, Regal Block, bToken and CoTrader and others. Exchange, we're very well suited for integrating with exchanges because we have a front end bZx.js library that makes it really easy to add for DEXs to add our order books and full margin trading, decentralized margin trading functionality. So those are some of the platforms. And then lending products like MakerDAO CDPs, ETHLend, Dharma, and others. And like I mentioned, wallet integrations are real interesting too. Just by holding your idle assets can be earning you interest through our protocol. So I'll touch on a bit on getting started. I mentioned that we're a complex network of smart contracts that handle all the margin trading and lending functionality. And we also have there's a couple layers of that. The base layer is all the core logic of the protocol, and then the Oracle contracts are contracts that are where you can extend the protocol, and also all our third-party integrations are handled with oracles like Kyber and Oasis DEX, and they're basically you can plug in new functionality and new ways of liquidating assets, stuff like that. And then we have a asynchronous JavaScript library. It's promise-based, bZx.js. It makes it really easy for DEXs and other front-end builders to build on our protocol. They don't really have to deal with our smart contracts directly. Of course they can, but that's what that's for. So real easy to get started. You can install it with Node Package Manager, and you can just initialize, you pass in the Web3 object, and you're good to go. And then we have docs that show you all the different functions that are available through the JavaScript library. Some of the key functions, it's not a non-exhaustive list that are up there. Basically anything, the full margin trading functions for creating orders, filling orders, managing your exposure to the market, collateral, profit taking, loan closure, etc. And here's some helpful resources that anyone that wants to build on us will definitely should check out our docs. And all our code is open source, so you can check out our mono repo, and there's lots of code and different packages in there you can check out. Some of them are contracts or all the smart contracts, bZx.js. We have a portal dApp that demonstrates all the functionality of the protocol. That's not typically where people would be using us. They'd be using us on a third-party builder like a DEX or exchange, but they can go to our portal, open loans, manage their assets, everything that you can do through the protocol. And then we have a starter project that is really good if you intend to build on us. There's sample code on there and different interactions with the protocol that could be useful to you. And then we also, for relays, similar to 0x, we have a bZx standard relayer API. So if you're actually building a relay, it would be really good to integrate using our standard relayer API so that you can kind of share liquidity with other relays, and it makes it real easy for people to create loans and then pass in those loan orders to your relay. So Kyle, you want to come up, and other co-founder Kyle, he's going to tell about some of the BUIDL ideas for this hackathon.
Yeah, so we created a wish list of different ideas in case you wanted to build on top of the protocol. It's up right now in more detail on the Cowrie post. We have some bounties. So you can create your own generic bZx relay. So if you want to create your own 0x relay and add on bZx to that to add basically decentralized long and short, that's one way to go about it. You can also create your own bZx relay that uses Kyber swap as your liquidity provider. So the bZx relay lets you get into loans, and then you use Kyber swap to let people manage their positions. Dark pool relays, so there aren't a lot of those right now, but you could essentially use a matching order book and then just give just-in-time quotes. You could use like a protocol like Republic in order to allow dark pools. So you combine Republic with our own protocol to have dark pools for shorting. You could create a shapeshift-like relay, one that's has the front end hosted on IPFS that kind of has another level of decentralization. A mobile relay, a front end for our iTokens that's available right now. If you go on our Coven testnet in our portal, you can play around with those right now and see how those work. You could create like a nicer front end for that if you wanted that sort of relay. Let's see. So you know, different liquidity providers that could be integrated and allow borrowers to manage their positions are you know, aggregators like Totally and Fetch, protocols like AirSwap. You could create a Hydra-like protocol for bZx. So like Hydra right now is for 0x, or they were before they forked it. Basically an incentive structure, middleware layer that allows exchanges to coordinate and compensate each other for the liquidity that they're sharing with each other in order to fix incentives that bigger relays might have with sharing liquidity with smaller relays. You could create a Paradigm market wrapper contract for bZx, so we're really excited about Paradigm and the relayer protocol that they're coming out with. This provides possibly another layer of decentralization. It could be a trading interface for market makers that makes it easy for them to interact with the APIs. You could create a number of different liquidation layers on the second layer. So some examples of that are the bZx that Gnosis has. So you could use the bZx contract to basically wind down margin positions using Dutch auctions. You could use Chainlink to query prices and draw in liquidity from third parties. You could use Chainlink to just draw in a centralized price feed and then enforce and bring in liquidity using a similar system as like Compound or Dharma Lever, where people just bid on assets and get a 5% discount on them based on the price that the centralized price feed is showing. You could use Aztec protocol. One of the really exciting use cases we talked to Aztec about are zero knowledge margin liquidation proofs. So basically, you create this zero knowledge order and you pass it off to Kyber and you feed it into the order object. And what this does is when margin callers query an account, they don't know what level you get liquidated at. There's just a proof that allows the oracle to come back and give a Boolean yes or no. Is this ready to be liquidated response? So this way you can kind of combine this with dark pools, right? So dark pools, they let you put an order on an order book and not have the size of the order and the asset and all of this be revealed. But once you actually enter into a position, you might want people to not know what the size of your position is, where your liquidation level is, so that somebody doesn't come and stop hunt you, so that you're not communicating information to the market at large when you put your order down or you enter your position. You know, recently somebody was using Compound and they loaned out a huge amount of rep and borrowed a huge amount of DAI, and they made those rates take huge spikes and drops, and they used that DAI to collateralize the CDP that they had. But you know, this was all exposed to the entire ecosystem. So people on Twitter were like, "Hey, look at where this guy who owns CDP number 335. Look at what he's doing. Look at where these funds are coming from. He did this on Compound. He borrowed that. And then that money flowed there." using zero knowledge proofs for your margin positions, using dark relays. Nobody has to know exactly what you're doing, so that open finance can have a little bit of privacy.